Hey, everybody in the OWL community. This is another episode here on the OWL Podcast. Good news. We are now streaming on Instagram at OWL all other platforms as well. YouTube at OWL Facebook, of course, at OWL and of course, my LinkedIn, Jason R. Hill. Every week, we get to interview such amazing entrepreneurs, CEOs, and experts all across the United States. They are flying into this studio, and this is our last episode of 2023. It's been an exciting year. Danielle, Santilli, can we look back at this year? We're now over 50 episodes. Pretty cool, right?
Oh, yeah. I was saying that today. I was going through the list. It's pretty wild. I remember the first one back in February. I think it was me. You interviewed me, which I was like, I feel like a celebrity. And now I'm like, this old thing again. But yeah.
You're like a podcast pro now? Like you used to never think of yourself as a podcaster. Yours like,
I was just like, I'm a musician. And now I'm like, can I add this to the resume? Check. There you go. Yeah. So I'm excited. Today we have Alisa Sheyn here, and she is a CEO of Sheyn Partners. And we were chatting a little bit before the podcast started. And I loved hearing your story, how you just decided, like, I'm just going to change my life completely and peace out corporate life. And I'm a badass and I'm going to start my own company. So tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got inspired to start your own company.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a long time in tech, worked in just about every role and got to really learn how big companies, small companies work, what kind of challenges they're facing, where things break down with people and processes and technology and all of that. And have really, was really proud of the experience I've gained, got to know a lot of people. And I think I got to a point where you're always learning, but I'm not sure I was learning as fast as I was really wanting to. And I was heading up product for a company out of Boston. I've headed up product for a couple different teams up then, primarily out of Boston. And at the same time, this opportunity came along and somebody was just looking for consultancy. And my first thought was not, how am I going to make money off this? It was like, how am I going to help people? What value can I provide? So I started working with this company pro bono and just started offering them advice on how to build a product, where some of the common pitfalls may be. At the same time, I was working as an executive for a technology firm out of Boston. And at one point they said, Alisa, this is awkward, but can we pay you at this point? Like, where you're showing up to all of our meetings and, you're providing a lot of value. So that kind of continued at the same time as I was working in tech.
I think that's, before we go into detail, I think that's so important for people to hear, because so often people are always requesting money first.
Yep.
And they think their value's up here.
100%.
And then what ends up happening is they miss these big opportunities. I tell that to people all the time in the OWL app. I'm like, you're charging $50 for your service, but no one knows who you are. I'm like, your schedule doesn't seem filled. When I talk to them one-on-one, they're like, oh, I'm like, what's your biggest struggle in business? Like, I just don't have enough meetings.
Yep. I'm
like, lower your price from $50 to $10. I'm like, no, but I want to devalue myself.
Or even $1.
And
like
I'm always saying, like, what you're talking about is like, do some pro bono work on the side that has upside potential and to see where it leads. And when I look at, past people I've interviewed, I always hear stories like yours. If you're worried about what you're getting paid today, good luck in the future. But if you're just not looking at the clock and just doing good work, the pay will come. Do you agree with that?
100%.
Also, like, if you enjoy what you do, that's a huge part of it too. Like, if it's your passion and you enjoy helping people, then we all want to work those jobs where, like, it doesn't really feel like work and we're getting paid. Like, that's the bonus. So but also too, like, when you think about OWL and getting paid, like, we all go to networking events and we pay sometimes to go to those networking events to make those connections. And OWL really is like a virtual networking event, if you want to think about it like that. So
I like that analogy. We've never talked about that. Like, it's $100 to get to an event, and then people bitch about paying on OWL Lab like $5, $10 to speak to people, but you get one-on-one with those individuals. You see their bio. When you go to an event, you end up getting sucked into a corner.
Yep.
Like you did, Danielle.
I know.
Tech Palooza.
And
she gets sucked
get
in.
away.
People come over to her and she can't get away for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And you're like, wait, I was at this event to network for only 2 hours. And then she gets sucked in
and I didn't talk to
in certain situations.
And that's the beauty too. Our conversations, after 10 minutes, you can go, oh, well, we have 1 minute left. Our time is running out. I'm so sorry. Gotta go by. Boop. You don't have to stay there for hours. So
Ultimately, you should be getting value from that conversation 10 minutes in. If you haven't, and to your point, I think I lead with that, right? Like, how can I give you value? How can I be helpful? That's the number one thing I learned about people management.
Yeah.
Start with that. How can I be helpful? Don't try to follow, and that's a tangent, right? But don't try to follow all these management. It's just, how can I be helpful, be useful? And so that's what really formed the company, right? Is how can I be helpful to other companies with what I know? How can I scale? And I was telling
I
Danielle.
agree, because too often people watch TikTok videos or Instagram reels and they're just like, oh, this is what successful people do, like Grant Cardone and Gary Vee. I'm like, but you're not them. You don't have the sales team behind the scenes setting up meetings. And too often they take it too serious and they lose out on a lot of the etiquette.
Yep.
Right. They don't show up on time because, like, well, I'm busy. I could show up 5 minutes late to the Zoom. I'm like, no, the Zoom starts at 10 a.m. You're there at 10 a.m. If
Yep.
you can't make the Zoom at 10 a.m., you text the person or you email them that you're running behind. And I feel like etiquette is a lost art these days. It's just too often we're witnessing people on the internet just say, I'll get another meeting. No big deal. But it sounds like you're not that individual. I could tell. Like,
No, and
I could tell, like, time is 10 o'clock. You're on that meeting, right?
yeah. Oh, sometimes it's annoyingly so. And then some of my close friends will laugh at that because I'm like, you said 8:32. I'm here at 8:32, and I'll start texting them a picture of their front door if
I'm
they're
saying,
not
what?
there.
I mean, when you think about it, we all have iPhones, so when people have these excuses with emails, like, sorry, I was running behind, I was in traffic, or I had another meeting, happening. It's like, okay, you could tell that meeting, hey, can you just give me one moment? I have to text my 10 o'clock meeting that I'm running 10 minutes behind schedule.
Yep.
And actually, there's a lot of research that if you do that, actually that person that you're doing it to, that you're running behind, will actually be very happy with you and more likely to do business with you.
Yep.
Because it's a signal
accountability.
Respect you.
that
You
you
respect them.
respect their time. Like, and that happened to me all the time when I lived in New York, jumping into the car and heading out to Long Island or New Jersey for a meeting. And then all of a sudden it's like, you never knew what was going to happen with traffic. But something, I always look down the phone. I'm like, I'll just call them. I'm running behind schedule. And that's so valuable today. And it's a missing part of entrepreneurship and just any expertise for that matter.
It is. And I think that ultimately how you treat others is how you treat yourself. And the respect that you have for others is the respect that you have for yourself. And if you lead with that, how can I provide value to other people? Then the message you're conveying is, I have value, right? And that's what people are attracted to. That's what people value. And that's how you get clients, right?
So go into depth a little bit about your business more.
Yeah. So
where you started working with, and then I kind of interrupted you, and then where you are today.
All good. So I started working with just all sorts of kind of anybody who needed anything, right? Because I didn't view this as a business. It was, how can I be useful? And we were just talking about this. I think there's a lot of challenges when you become a real business, that you have to start to target yourself to who your ideal customer is. And I knew this from my product days, and coincidentally, all of the advice that I was getting pro bono into startups and at the FAU runway, I wasn't taking it myself. So I went from being kind of anything tech, right? From a broken printer, that's a joke, right? But to anything, to essentially building software, to something a lot more targeted. So what we're doing now is we build automated processes. And so we'll look at a business, we'll look at where there's an efficiency, and you'll be surprised how many businesses, especially SMB, mid-sized businesses, that are just keying in data and manually having, moving things from a folder to a folder, or scanning, we wait for Bob to scan a piece of paper, and then, Jenny oversees it and she keys in here. And these processes are taking up so much of people's times. They're eating up teams, and companies are losing money. And in this economy, I found that that's so critical right now, that concept was, there was no other convincing I need. I'm like,
so do you work with 0 to 5 employees, solo entrepreneurs? What is your sweet spot these
50
days?
to 200.
Oh, so a lot larger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because what we're looking for is redundancy and repetitiveness, right? And so if you're in a 0 to 50 range, you're probably doing a little bit of everything, and every entrepreneur can attest to that, right? You're wearing 10 different hats. But once you get into that kind of 50 and above, you're starting to have people who their whole job is just to refresh, this folder, or check for this email, or do these repetitive tasks. And that's where we can come in and say, hey, this is a part of a full-time employee or a full-time employee. Here's the cost of automation. Here's the cost of a salary, which is the biggest expense in every company typically. And then we can automate that and then sell that as a solution. And in turn, the company.
It's actually funny you're bringing this up. I just had a meeting with the folks over at Salesforce CRM, and a couple of them are on the app right now.
Yep.
Of course, because I'm like, you got to get into OWL. I'm like, all these people on this platform typically are running a business, because a lot of times you'll have a 9 to 5er right? But then they're working on a passion project and they're a solo entrepreneur,
Yep.
right? And they need a CRM, right? And I'm big into CRM. I have like 3 different ones. And it's so important what you're talking about because all the different processes, but then stuff has to get into the CRM,
Yep.
right? It doesn't just populate, from the meeting you had and notes, but then you could share like stories about like, hey, use this tool that could take the notes from a Zoom and then get it into the CRM. So you don't have to do it manually. You don't have to type it up afterwards. And there's so many tools out there and whatever amount you make on that project, you're like, look, I'm saving you X, immediately from these tools that you didn't realize existed because there's just too many tools.
Yep.
Right. I think you would agree. Like, it's just like the pace of technology is out of control right now with AI solutions. I'm like, oh, use this, but everyone says the same 4 things like ChatGPT. Right. And we just had a tech conference and everyone would just say the same thing over and over again. And I just looked at Danielle and was like, but how do we use these things? Like, no one's really showing it to us, right? No one's sitting us down and saying, Jason, this is what you should do for OWL. This is going to help your team, bring in more downloads and just save you so much time to focus on what you do best, which me and Danielle are good podcasters, right? That's what we do best.
Yeah. And well, I'm not sure if there's a way to automate and replicate you as a human,
Yes.
but there might be one day.
Oh, there is actually. Yeah. I was over at the Levant Center of Innovation. They literally, it's like 20 grand and they could take a whole thing in this special cube thing that they have. And then you could start pushing it to another AI tool to actually create videos of you. So actually,
I love that. I love that.
So when you were talking about your niche and your ideal clients, who are those exactly?
So if you look at all the different industries and where innovation hasn't quite reached those segments, there's a lot of healthcare, there's a lot of manufacturing and kind of that very labor intensive type of industry. So we work a lot with manufacturing clients, healthcare, behavioral health, doctors.
And how did you determine that to be?
I think I was thinking a lot about where the economy is headed. And there was a big push, right? And there's been a lot of instability. It's the election year. There's a lot of different macro trends that are happening. And at the same time, and you just brought this up, Gen AI has swept the world, right? Everybody's talking about ChatGPT, generative AI. How can we leverage that? So there was this interesting push of advancement in technology and skill set and people who are talking about ChatGPT and all the other similar tools and where the economy is going and what industries aren't really going to be touched or impacted. There's always going to be manufacturing. There's always going to be healthcare, right? And so I was facing the same challenge of how do I become more targeted, right? How do I stop wasting all of my efforts on marketing and outbound sales to marketing? Essentially, somebody had told me this once. They go, so who's your client? Anybody with a computer?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That was like a big aha moment for me is I need to figure out what's happening around me and what my skill sets are internally and then target it from there.
Why does everyone struggle with that, you think? Because so often it's so obvious. Everyone goes to, business school and they're like, pick a niche, and then eventually everyone comes out and they're like, I know it, but then they always go general. And when you look down at the OWL app, we're here to help everyone on the OWL app with this answer that she's about to provide. It's like, narrow it down. Right.
Yeah.
What is it? If you're working with 50 to 200 type, mid-sized businesses, like what types, right? And you mentioned it right there, like the healthcare field, because they're never going to run out of money. Everyone's always going to run into health situations and they always, can write checks, of course, right? Same reason why some people work only with lawyers, right? Because lawyers will always be able to write those checks. Obviously that could slow down with ChatGPT, but I doubt it, right? Because now what I'm seeing is like there's more issues because people are using ChatGPT to everyday businesses.
Yep.
And these everyday businesses are like, what am I getting? That happened to me recently.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's like, I know they're using ChatGPT, but then you have to take it serious. So then you have to speak with an attorney, which is what I'm doing. And then the attorney has to be like, oh, no. Like, this is bullshit. Like, don't worry about this or that. But, when it comes to niche, what do you recommend? Because you went through this struggle yourself. Like in our community, a lot of people, you see this with coaching specifically. What would you recommend? How did you break through?
I think my biggest learning, and I've thought about this for a long time, so I'm happy you're asking that, is scarcity mindset. And if you have that scarcity mindset that you have to take every lead, every opportunity, every contact that comes your way, you become that. You become everything to everyone. And therefore you're nothing to someone, right? Because you're just, you're generic, right? What's your skill set? So for me to get down to why am I spending time on something that might not be my niche, it was about, do I have the confidence? And it's back to our conversation about value.
Yeah.
Do I have confidence that I can say no to a certain opportunity and still have value? And I think for folks that are struggling with that, especially startups, they have limited resources, and they feel that they have to go after every opportunity. And then I'm working with a company now, they're B2B and B2C at the same time. They can't even narrow down what's the order, because they're so scared of letting go. And I think there's a lot of confidence, and there's different ways to get there, right? Maybe it's expertise, maybe it's mentorship, right? Maybe it's asking others, how did you go down from 10 things to 3 things to then 1 thing? But ultimately, it's, are you bringing that scarcity mindset, or are you bringing the value? And then you can really with confidence say, this is my thing.
Let's talk about mentorship for a second, because you are part of the FAU Tech Runway. OWWL was part of their last class, and I was assigned 4 mentors, and they're very supportive, right? You get access to all these different platforms like Microsoft or AWS, different discounts. You get to be part of a pitch competition, but the big thing is these mentors, which you are one of them. Why do you do it? Number one, and then explain the power of being part of these type of incubators that are out there.
I think one of the so we're talking about networking earlier, and the value of having those right people in your circle that you can lean on, you can ask questions. And I value that greatly. Like, I understand there's probably an actual monetary value, but the people that I can call on and say, hey, have you seen this? And then when they go, before I even finish the sentence, they could already say, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the, A versus B dilemma. Had that 10 times. That is months of work that you just cut yourself with the right phone call.
Love it.
And they've seen it, right? And
that's
so
all about OWWL. That's what we tell everyone all the time.
Yes, absolutely. And so for me, I love giving back, right? And I'm an FAU grad myself. I'm an OWL.
Cool.
And so I wanted to get more involved with the community. I wanted to give back to FAU, and like this concept of how can I provide value, and how can I help these people not run into the same issue over and over again. That's really why I got involved, and it's been incredibly fulfilling. It's rewarding. I mentor a couple of companies per class, and ironically, the challenges that I'm describing here, this genericism, if you will, or not,
they're big on that.
Oh,
they're
it's
huge.
number one.
It's like survey 25 of your customers or clients, and you can't really get into the program until you've done those 25 surveys. And then once you're in, your mentors just beat you down on the data points, and then it's like, what is the problem that you are solving? Put in your pitch deck. Explain in 1 minute. It can't be 4 minutes. You can't say but because a lot of entrepreneurs try to jump around the true 1 minute elevator pitch, and they are very, very helpful. We were interesting, right, OWWL, because not many people have built a mobile app that has this type of scenario that you were just saying. Like, that niche is kind of like, well, like, who uses LinkedIn? And my mentors were like, you have to niche. I'm like, but then I would go back to them, like, who goes to a networking event? And you're like, a lot of different type of people go to a networking event. You're like, who networks? And you're like, a lot of different professionals network. So it was always a struggle, and technology and apps is developing so quickly that it's hard, because if you're not building a mobile app right now, it's like, the policies are changing so rapidly, and it takes so much time to build, and it's so darn expensive. So it was actually really interesting with our mentors, just bouncing around ideas, but it does come back to problem solution. And of course the user experience, where if you could get a user that just feels value, the second they enter that app, and then, and we're still struggling with that today. That's why we're continuously improving. We created the OWWL Connection Hub, where you could post similar to a typical chat form, but post a need, and then we could go in there and tag a person like yourself, because now we know each other. And now I can say, you two should speak. You guys are going to hit a home run together, and potentially it could be a customer for you. And these are very important in business, of course.
And it's not one-sided. Like, I have a list of people that are my mentors in my personal life. There are mentors as a parent. There are mentors as an athlete. And I think there's, and I've said this to her, there's true value to that. And a lot of the mentee companies, the venture companies, occasionally they don't know what to ask a mentor, and it becomes this like teacher like dynamic of, what is it that you're expecting of us? And I think everybody that, first of all, I believe anybody can benefit from mentorship always, but know what you're looking for, know what to ask the mentor, have your questions ready, because as a mentor, we get value and fulfillment and joy from helping people. So there's really nothing worse than kind of not knowing what you don't know what you don't know, but don't be afraid to ask the questions, right? Because they're there to help you, right? We're not paid. I mean, at the FAU Tech Runway, we're volunteers, but in any mentorship capacity, you could really benefit from that.
And we started doing Mentorship Mondays for these reasons. It's a really cool initiative. We were on the news about 6 months ago, and Cindy Metzler, I got to give her a lot of credit, gave us this idea. She's like, why don't you do a mentorship day, like Mentorship Mondays. So 9 o'clock to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any expert that wants to participate, you can just select that as your expertise. And then you just lower your price. So if you usually charge $10, lower to $1. Just give back. Let people call you and see where it goes. And it's our best day of the week because people just, then we just remove that whole like money piece to it. It's $1. You could afford to call 5 people at $5, speak for 15 minutes with no problem, and meet 5 new people. And the people accepting the calls, they're just in shock. They're like, I came in thinking this about mentorship, but then it just leads to so many different opportunities, podcasting or meeting up for coffee. And you see that through the Tech Runway. It's not about the money. It's just like the network and then the ability to know these people that you've been in touch with when you have a need arise. We're all human. We all go through health situations, family situations, just diet situation. Like, I don't know what food to eat some days, and you just call somebody and you're like, what do you think about this? It's never ending. And when people think, oh, well, I don't need this for that reason. Like I hear that with Al all the time. I'm like, what do you mean? There's a gazillion different reasons why you might need to call an expert. I'm like, that just doesn't practically make sense to me. They're just stubborn. They're not willing to learn something new, of course, at times.
True. Or they're not valuing their own time enough, and they think that spending those 100 hours is somehow worth less than, let's say it's $100. Let's say it's $1,000. Look at that. Is your time worth more than $10 an hour? Probably, right?
Yeah.
So I would pay any money for that advice that's going to save me time, because that's the one thing that you don't get back.
That is true. That is true.
It's a scarce resource.
And folks like Danielle, she's juggling so much. She works with the OWL brand. She's head of our brand ambassador department. So definitely reach out to Danielle if you want to become a brand ambassador. But I witnessed her just like writing music, teaching music, then she does gigs down here in South Florida. And it's really cool because I see her use the OWL app so much. And she's like, this is a no-brainer. I've got to and share some of these stories. It's important for listeners here, like getting gigs with like Ron Saunders, right? When he came on the Shrimp Tank podcast and then you saw him go live, and then just tell those stories about what have come out, just calling people in the car, literally.
No, I mean, I have like stories about my industry and also not even related. Like, I mean, the Ron Saunders thing, like he was on the Shrimp Tank. Jason said, oh, he does this event every year at his house with Nashville songwriters. I knew that I wanted to spend a long period of time in Nashville. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to meet, some of these people are Grammy nominated songwriters, make the right connection. So I called him. He ended up having one more spot left in this show, this Nashville Songwriters round that he was having at his house. And he was like, sure, you can do it. Yeah. One more spot. And then it led me to like a few months later. Then I was in Nashville for the whole month of September, writing with some of these people. So that was amazing. But even just like I was one day sick and I like got on the OWL app. I didn't realize that I had COVID and I was like, I'm feeling really bad. I don't know what's going on. And like I called this naturopath on the OWL app and she was like telling me all these natural concoctions to take. And I actually was going to Burning Man like a week later. So I was like, I need to get better like ASAP. So I was like sick, for 4 days. I was like religious about all the things she told me to do, and then took the test and I was negative 4 days later. So, like it could be anything from like your career or not, like medical advice or therapy. I was just looking at our list of people live. Like we have a divorce coach on here, relationship coach, like personal or professional. I know we talked about having a niche, but something like this, I guess we could say we have mostly entrepreneurs on here who are giving the advice, but you really can go on here for anything. So yeah, I mean, I've obviously, like, I think any entrepreneur, you have to be a networker and you have to understand the benefit of networking and building relationships and having like just the value of having one-on-one conversations. It's so rare these days, as opposed to just sending an informal DM, which people get flooded with all the time. That's generic. Just having that conversation, hearing someone's voice, getting to know each other. We have on the profiles here not just professionally what you do, but there's a reason we have hobbies as well. Like, so you can find common interests with people and say, oh my God, you love horseback riding too? Wow. Just get that conversation started, common interests.
That's
or
true, because often we're at a networking event and there's no icebreaker. We just got to figure it
Mhm.
out. With OWWL, you could just see these
You
hobbies
can like
that are
stalk
listed.
someone ahead of time and be
and-
like, oh my God, we went to the same college or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And that's a lost art too, is
Yep.
knowing how to approach someone, and OWL really breaks that down, right? It breaks
Sure
that
does.
barrier. So it's like, here you go, here's a connection point, here's a starter.
Mhm.
Go learn something, go be useful or for yourself or others.
And everyone has so much time in a day. Whenever you're in the car and you have a commute, everyone's picking up, a meal here or there. And I always say, like, you could do this while you're picking up a meal and just meet
Yep.
someone new and make it a habit. Because often people, love to have excuses like, oh, my business is failing because X, Y, or Z. Because more often that's the issue, is they just don't have enough conversations throughout the month and they don't get that ripple effect that Danielle was speaking about. And often it's just like that one time you got lucky. She called Ron and he had a spot.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden it's like that luck turned into them meeting someone when she went to Nashville, and it just continues and
Snowballs.
continues. And
Mhm.
everyone just always like, well, they're lucky because of X, right? Like I
Yeah.
just got the green light, to run. No one knows this. I'll say it live right now, but with my other co-host with the Shrimp Tank, a podcast with 40 students. We're going to take a classroom and put it during the podcast time in a new theater that we had the opportunity to take over at FAU, their College of Business. And it only took 275 shows, to prove to them that we were worthy of doing this.
Yeah.
But now we have this opportunity of a lifetime. There's no
That's
such
exciting.
studio that I'm aware of in the world that does that with a college. And how cool would this be that these students are going to get, to ask these entrepreneurs live questions like we are doing right now. Imagine 40 students being
That's amazing.
right here doing the show, and then during the show they're asking questions. But it took that first call to FAU to say, would you want to do a podcast with
Yep.
me and
Mhm.
walk through those doors and just ask?
Yep.
Right. And OWWL enables you to ask, which we're about to do. We're going to call some people. So if you're listening live, go live on the OWWL app. If you're not on OWWL, download it, head to App Source, 2 W's, 2 L's. And every week we call people live, bring right into the show. And that's the beauty of it. It's like everyone's like, oh, but I don't know about that person. I don't know if I'd have anything in common. It's like, they're all human. Just call them and see
Yep.
where it goes. And then nevertheless, people are givers. They're going to want to support you. Like, oh, you know who you should speak to? This individual on the app. They would be a perfect fit because they're not the fit, but they've talking to the
I
perfect
love
fit.
that.
And that's what the Connection Hub is going to be all about.
So, Yamila, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can. How are you doing?
Good. So you are actually live on the OWWL podcast right now.
Oh, wow. Hello.
What's up?
Yes.
This is Jason Hill with you as well. How's everything going?
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
All good, all good.
I decided to call Yamila because we were talking about niches earlier, and I think that what she's doing is great. And she just became a brand ambassador with us, which is exciting. But I checked out her profile and I saw that she's a Spanish translator, which
Ooh.
I feel like is, especially being in South Florida, like where there's such a big population, like she's already told me that she's gotten gigs helping people translate things on the app, translate courses, etc. So, Yamila, just tell us a little bit about your experience with OWWL.
Absolutely. I've only been on OWL for about 3.5 weeks. I get about at least 3 to 4 phone calls a day. I definitely got a project off of OWL. This is
Woohoo.
Sharente. Connected me with an author of a book, grief book, and I translated it from English to Spanish. I have also been talking to Miss Connie on translating the child safety kits that she is working on to translate those into Spanish. So she should be getting back to me with that at the beginning of the year sometime. And talk to Daryl. I'm teaching him Spanish on here. There's
That-
quite a few people that call me on a regular basis. So
I just you just reminded me of my New Year's resolution, which I failed at, was to get better at Spanish. So now maybe I need to, I have like a few weeks left, but
Do
it's
it.
been, I
we
never
can learn
did.
basics in a
I
few
was gonna,
weeks.
I was gonna download Duolingo, and I like I just never did it. But now I know you're here and I can call you.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking into all these different like apps and stuff to teach Spanish, and I'm like, they don't teach the beginning fundamentals. You gotta teach the alphabet first. You gotta
I'm
learn the
always
alphabet, the
like,
pronunciation.
I'm always a proponent of working with a human. I don't care what they say about AI. Like YouTube how-to videos, I'm like, no, no, no. I just want to talk to a person. I want to be able to ask my questions like on the spot. It's so much easier that way. Do you have any questions? Our guest today is Alisa. She's the CEO of a company that does, let's see if I get this right because I'm not techie, but I guess she's a consultant for technology, product processes. Sure. Yeah. Again, not my industry, but so do either of you have questions for each other? We'll put it that way.
Well, I want to build on what
Mhm.
you had just said.
Yeah.
In living in South Florida, Spanish is common.
Mhm.
How do you distinguish yourself? And do you narrow down to a specific type of content, or how does narrowing down help you stand out?
Well, I think narrowing down, like basically, like, okay, Spanish has multiple dialects. Like you
Mhm.
have different types of Spanish. You have Spaniard, you have Colombian, you have Venezuelan, you have Cuban, Puerto Rican, Dominican, etc. So when I teach to narrow it down and make sure that we all
Kick the buddy's my best
hold on
game
one
ever,
second,
is it?
baby. 1 second, puppy.
Kick mommy.
1 second, baby. I basically what I do is I teach the fundamentals of the regular, normal Spanish that we can all translate and we can all relate to. Even though you're from a different area, you can definitely understand, the basics. That's basically how I stand out in a nutshell. Sorry, y'all, I got distracted with my little
No,
boy
see,
here.
this is
Go from
perfect advertisement of like you can be home with your children and still be making money and using OWL and working at the same time. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick the buddy's
So-
And you can on a
Okay, one second.
podcast. See
Thank
that? You
you.
do all the above.
Yeah,
There
and
you
be
go.
the guest on the podcast. Exactly.
I can almost envision the
Yeah,
face of a
literally,
parent
like, I
that's
have to
giving
always
that.
multitask.
I'm
number one.
curious how, like, I don't know if there's a certain technology that she could use. You might not have to know more about her business, but like something that she could implement. I don't know if it's
mean,
something with
there's-
automation or I don't know.
There certainly is. I mean, I think the biggest strength of tools like ChatGPT and other generative AI is content, right?
Yeah,
ChatGPT, definitely.
So if you're working with content,
ChatGPT.
the one note is supervise the AI, supervise
Mhm.
the AI. So we were just talking about that when people think that AI can be unsupervised and it replaces their job for them. There's still some supervision that's required, but certainly.
Absolutely. When I translated this book, I kind of used AI a little bit, but I still had to correct the grammar and certain certain
Yeah.
words
Yep.
that they use
Context.
I'm
would not be
curious.
understood by the regular person. Most of those words were definitely high level words, so I would have to
Mm.
convert it into something that is more useful and more understanding for the population.
Yeah, I used to use like back in the day. Sorry, teachers, but I'm admitting now we all cheated and we used to use Spanish English translator for our Spanish class, which
Yep.
I would like literally verbatim just like type my paper in English and then put it in the translator. And it was like very obviously like these words don't go together. This doesn't make any sense. So I don't know how much better the AI has gotten now with translations, but I imagine
Eh,
there's still
It's
some.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's okay. It still needs a lot of updating to do,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to grammar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is how much AI and ChatGPT has penetrated every single industry. Like I don't know a single person at this
Every
day.
single one.
Everyone,
Yeah.
right?
Who
For
doesn't use it?
I have
Like,
people that respond to my text with ChatGPT. Like if I'm having a
Mhm.
bad day, they're like, "How can ChatGPT help you?"
It's kind of getting a little silly though, because you're like, this person's not that smart. You're like, it. You're like the words that they're using in the sentence. I'm like, this looks phenomenal. I'm like, I know it's not you,
yeah.
right? But it's just it's getting a little weird, right?
is.
You just want
Mhm.
to talk to people normally.
The technology is moving faster than
Exactly.
people
Posts on
say.
social media, you can tell.
It's
you're
so
like,
obvious.
you're not you're posting
Yeah.
to look like this, and now it's like all these big words are in there,
Yep.
and they try to like make it sound cooler. with the big words, and it's just like,
Even when you get the DM, like it's so obvious to me when I'm talking to a human versus like their automated DM back, like take my course,
Yeah, the
whatever,
overly
click this
expressive.
link, yeah, or whatever it is. Like I'm like,
Well,
okay,
I
bot,
clicked into
bye.
someone's website. Yeah, I clicked
Yeah.
into someone's website the other day that said they were teaching Spanish, and I click on it, and they literally had an AI robot talking and teaching Spanish, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You can't
Mhm.
even understand what the AI is saying. Like, it's not even clear Spanish. Like, why would you do that?
That's why OWL, again, just bringing it back. You know what you're
that's
getting.
traditional.
When it's a difference when someone is typing something out, but when you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone, you can tell right away if they are bullshit or not, I think.
I
So
agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
You feel that
so
energy, and you
with
connect.
beauty, yeah, for sure.
That's why all the social platforms are favoring all the lives. Like
Mhm.
Instagram just announced that you could stream a podcast live for the first time. So you're seeing everyone, push to the left, right? When you look at the stories, the lives, those are
Mhm.
mostly podcasts these days. And then LinkedIn, when you go live, either they're audio rooms with those events or you're streaming. You can only stream through a podcast through LinkedIn right now. They're favoring it.
Mhm.
TikTok's favoring it. So it's just like we're seeing it because it's the reality that all the social posts are more fake today,
Mhm.
but the rawness is coming back.
Isn't that
Just
funny how
seeing
it's
it-
come full circle?
Yeah, now people want raw videos.
Yep.
They don't want all the yes, we could all put
Even like the curated
subtitles.
pages on Instagram, how it was like you must use these color schemes and have like every other block and everything. Now it's just like whatever in the moment. Hey guys, which I like. It's a time saver and less curation, I think, is where you get the best content.
Absolutely.
So anyway, well, thank you for chatting with us.
Well, thank you guys for calling.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we will talk to you
Definitely
later.
check
I
out our
look
feed
forward
and
to being
listen
more
and
on
see
the
us.
OWL app, and I'm definitely on here. Like every time my time runs out, I like start it over. So I'm
Nice.
always
Yay.
with you
That's
guys.
awesome.
That's great.
See you later.
Alrighty.
See you later.
Thank you. See you later. Bye
And then,
bye.
of course, at the end of the call, you can rate somebody and comment. We're going to give her 5 stars.
And then take those reviews what people write about you, all right, and post them on social media. People
Yep.
love testimonials, and it's interesting. I don't see enough people doing that, and
No.
what they're doing is going back to, typical posts that 99% of people are doing, and then, they wonder why they get poor results because it's the same stuff we all see,
Yep.
but most people haven't seen like what is this form that says 10 calls in the last 10 days and what people
5
are
stars,
saying
5
about you.
stars, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Yeah.
Or
And-
fake reviews. But this
Yeah.
is, you heard it. This is a real conversation, and we could all go back. And by the way, I think I'm impressed by her ability to handle the kid going, "Mommy, I need your help," and she just kept at it. I was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that's the connection point where I'm a parent, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, I could totally relate." That's what I'm
Yeah.
going to remember. It's the humanity of that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there for some reason. I have a 9 and 7-year-old.
We
It's
haven't
like
all
the
been there. We
second-
haven't all been there.
we haven't all been.
Yeah.
But that situation with some of us where
Yeah.
like you just jump on the phone, they're calm, and then all of a sudden they just love attacking.
There's a rule. As soon
There
as you're
is.
unavailable, they want you, they
Like-
need you, things are on fire. It's
Yes.
always like that.
It is so. It is
Oh,
so.
isn't that the truth?
It is so true.
Well, you know what? You were talking about mentorship and asking questions. And I was thinking about this is that there is no area of my life personally where I'm like, got it, nailed it. Parenting, being an entrepreneur, being a student, anything, right? You're always learning. So I was thinking about that. And same thing with parenting. Like, how do you handle that? How do you talk to me about mentorship? So it all comes back to that. I think it's interesting that entrepreneurs have that same mindset as a student.
No, it's true because a lot of times people think they know it all, and then they don't need to take calls. They don't need to take certain meetings. And it's interesting. Simon Sinek, I watch a lot on TikTok and other stuff. And pretty much, when you hear him talk about businesses that you work with, 50 to 200, and the leaders of those businesses, he says it all the time. It's like, you are consistently learning. There is no playbook for this shit. You could read all you want, but when someone walks through that front door and has a shitty day and they drop something on your platter, you got to run with it.
Yep.
Right. And lots of times you think you could read a book and you've experienced it, but no one experienced COVID before, right? What are you going to do if you're a restaurant? Well, my friend that runs Ocean 234 started a grocery store. There's no playbook for starting a grocery store
During COVID.
right? Like that she just winged and
Yep.
she went with it. Right. And there's no playbook for OWL app when Apple says you need these features to block, people and be able to delete data based on the ruling in California. And then you're like, crap, I got to build this. It's going to take 3 months. You just got to run with it. or now ChatGPT with like the uptick of what I mentioned earlier, of people using it against the businesses to try to bleed them for more money. Like, I'm going to sue you, right? So that's causing an uptick of problems, right? And then you just got to run with that, of course, and just have better practices behind the scenes for your business setup. But I just think it's, we're learning as entrepreneurs, like there is, just endless learning to occur.
The best things about being entrepreneur are also the worst, right? Is that you're always learning something, you're always talking to somebody, figuring something out, which that's the exciting part, but that's also where you're like, oh crap, I've never done this before. I gotta figure out.
It's true.
Save yourself a lot of time by calling the right people.
Yes. And that's all about OWL. Just get in there, follow all these new people. We put all the new people at the top this week. Sometimes put on the second row or third row, but very simple. They're in there. They're $1 until they get to 10 calls. So you get to chat with a lot of our podcasts for $1 because we do it for everybody, and it's an experience. So that way they learn the platform when they're new, and they really learn that it's about the relationships, not about the money received. Too often people come to our app and hear money, and then they're like, "Ooh, I want to charge a lot of money," but then they then get so, stuck on that. And like Danielle actually pinpointed earlier, it's like, you don't go to a networking event and say, "I'm not talking to you unless you pay me $10. You say, you go to the network and you pay them, right? You pay to get into the event, hundreds of dollars often. And lots of people love the ones that are more expensive because that means it's better quality people.
Perceived value.
Right. So on OWL, if you call someone that's $50 or $100 and they got 500 reviews, probably there's some opportunity there. Right. And, don't be penny foolish all the time and always be like, well, they're too much. I don't know if I'll get enough value out of it. You get what you pay for out of life. Do you believe that?
I do, of course. And some of those people, they might be charging $1,000, $2,000 an hour for, some of the best coaches in the world charge way more than that. And you're taking advantage of the fact that they have 5 minutes or 10 minutes and they could just jump on a quick call with you. If somebody asks me to book an hour, I'm like, oh, let me look at my calendar. I've got, a spot next Thursday. If somebody says, hey, I need 3 minutes or I need 10 minutes of your time, I can make that today, right? I make it on the way home driving from here, right? And so that fractional availability, I think there's a lot of value to that because you can get that insight. And most of the time you probably learn a lot from the first 10 minutes of the conversation with that person.
So much.
So 100%, you get what you pay for, and mentors, they're invaluable.
Okay. So.
All right. This is the fun part of the show. Don't forget. This is my favorite part. The bet.
The bet.
Uh-oh.
Famous bet. We just started this 4 weeks
We just
ago.
started. That's why he forgot.
And now we're like 50-50 who has won the bet and who has lost the bet, right?
No, I think
It's
we
way
won
worse. We
every
won like
time.
a-
So I
we won
hopefully you seem like a go-getter and you seem like someone who like follows through and you're on top of your shit. So I'm just gonna say. So I don't know how much time you have. I know it's the holidays right now. So maybe like we make this for the new year. But typically we do these bets. So usually we challenge our guest to make 10 calls on OWL in a week. So you have a week to make 10 calls. If you make the 10 calls, then we owe you something. So
Make, not receive. Very important.
yeah, make.
You have to get in there and
Easy.
call outbound.
Yeah.
Done.
So
It sounds easy, but often then people are like, do I want to put myself in an uncomfortable position?
yeah, because so
call
far
somebody
like
that they don't know.
4 out
right?
of
That's the
4
harder
have
part.
I
failed.
struggle with that.
4 out of 4 have failed.
4 of 4 have failed so far. None of
You're
them.
really upping the
did
ante
it.
on the, like I'm a challenge.
So
like
yeah,
the
I can
challenge,
tell.
so
I'm like, ooh,
oh yeah, bring out the
yeah.
competitive
So
side.
maybe you'll be like the one winner out of everyone. But so we can offer you. So I already have an idea of what I want you to give.
I know the offer. I know the offer.
I know the offer too. Fine, you go.
I'm going to put a pretty good offer out there. I just announced during
Okay.
this show that our new studio is at FAU, right? And I'm sure you want to get on our other podcast, The Shrimp Tank, with 40 students. Also, you're an FAU alumni and also you're a mentor. So getting on that show is quite cool.
Very
I
good.
will offer that show as a guest.
Okay.
You're an entrepreneur, you're CEO, so
Making
you
the
qualify.
10 calls on the way home.
I think we got to up it then, because you were going to
Maybe
make an offer too.
15.
You were gonna offer
Wait a
something
minute. Wait
too.
a minute.
No,
This-
I know. I already
no.
said 10. That's
What was your thing? Because we got 2 things.
No,
in there.
Get
We
both.
do a double.
No, well, actually, my thing was going to be literally also your own podcast show, but
do
either
both.
here or at FAU. But then my other thought,
Can't offer FAUs.
even though I was like going to be like FAU and see if you said yes, but then like what we want is,
What do we?
I was more thinking what we want is like for you to come in and do a consultation with us and see how like we can incorporate
Ooh, I like this.
technology to
We-
make OWL more efficient, maybe get more downloads, like where we have holes.
So
So.
that seems like a win-win. Like,
Yeah, well, I
talk
mean,
to 10 people,
Ready?
learn something,
Yeah, time out.
or be on a podcast, or
I think she wants to win and lose simultaneously.
yeah, and then you can help us too. Yeah,
I'm
no.
competing against myself.
But yeah, so if you lose, whoa, okay.
Well, we're getting
my
it for
phone.
free.
I just keep. I'm so
You keep hitting it.
popular. Oh my god. Anyway, no.
Just shut it off. Shut it off. But in general,
Okay. So,
well, we're getting it for free because often you would charge thousands
people,
of
yeah.
dollars to
Yes,
do that type of
but we
consultation.
started the conversation with how can I provide value, right?
yeah.
So
So if you lose, we get that free consultation from you. But if we, sorry, I can't think right now.
She
If you
wins.
win,
She
if
gets
you
over it.
win, then
I
you
think
get
the hurdle's got to be higher. 10's quite easy. It's $1 a call. There's so many people live on the app.
fine. What do
she
you
could
want it
do
to be?
this in
That's
her
not
sleep.
really fair, though.
Wait,
I
This is a
said
big bet.
I
This is a big
said
bet.
10.
bigger
I think-
bet, bigger reward.
I don't
Okay,
know.
I say that it's got to be 10 calls, but then she has to publicly post about, one
Her
of these calls.
experiences.
One of the stories that led to something bigger that
Okay.
she didn't see happening.
So you have
Ooh,
to
I
give a
like that.
testimonial.
We need
Okay.
a pure testimonial. What
That.
I want, what happened from the I want the results,
You want a
right? Too
spreadsheet.
often,
Mm.
no, but too often we see 10 calls happening and like a story like today, I'm like, she got business. Why doesn't the world know that you had this opportunity? Like, don't keep us a secret, right? We need more people to be exposed by these stories. So I want a true testimonial. What happened from those 10 calls,
Deal.
right? Did you get on one podcast? Did you end up getting a customer? Did you meet for coffee? Did you, we had people that dated on this app, literally, like we met and now we're together. Like I've
That's
seen that
exciting.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? But I just want to really hear like the truth behind those 10 calls.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm, as you probably can imagine, I'm very organized. So I do that for every
Block it out.
networking. So let's do it.
But too often
Challenge
people
accepted.
don't, and then 7 days goes around like, I missed it.
Well, it's
right?
the holidays,
Like,
so I feel
Yeah,
like
so we
it's a
could
little bit
start it-
unfair.
no, it's
Yeah.
not because they're live. Right now, you get in there and call
getting
one
all
person
the-
on your way out. It's one
Yes.
call a day.
Well, the other cool
Well, it's a
thing,
week.
It's 1 week. It's
About
no
the-
holidays.
So I
It's
gotta
1
get
day's
on 2
holiday.
calls a day.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that don't celebrate. They're
Business
live.
days
There's
or-
people online at 1 a.m, 2 a.m.
This is true.
You'd be surprised. Like today, I woke up and Lawrence Gartell, literally a famous artist, was live at like 7 a.m, and I saw his light lit up red. I got out of the pool this morning after swimming, and I was like,
oh, nice.
and I saw on call. I was like, Lawrence is on a call. So it's natural because they're available.
I love that.
It's actually hard to fail because it's not scheduling meetings.
because they're right there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people don't always pick up, but that's because
So that doesn't count against my 10 tally.
no, the people don't pick up for very simple reasons. We have this thing called office hours where they set up a schedule and that they're available those specific times, and then they forget to shut them off. So what
Yeah.
happens is you
Yeah.
call them and they don't even know they're live, right? And then you just go to the next person, right?
And the cool thing, which I didn't show you yet, is so if you want to, we're talking about niche and targeting. So like rather than just like going through the millions of people on here, you can choose an expertise. So you could go, oh, let me see everyone in the healthcare industry. Those are my clients, right? Boom, done, apply.
Yeah.
And then it shows you everyone on the app who's in healthcare. And then these people are live right now. So you could call them now, or you could just like go down and be like, all right, boop, boop. Let me check out her LinkedIn. What does her bio say? Does she look like a client? No, she looks like she's more part-time,
Yep.
Oh, this person works for a big company. Maybe I could get them as a client. Let me just give them a call. And it's as simple as, hey, like I just found you on OWL app. I want to hear more about what you do. Bam, that's it. So that's a really useful feature of just navigating through the app, is narrowing down that search. And you can narrow it down even further if you want local clients to South Florida, anywhere in the US. We have a little bit of Canada in there, I think.
We
but,
do. We don't have a search in Canada.
we don't
but
have a
there's
search in
Canada.
Canada, but
Mhm.
yeah.
That's
so-
exciting.
Well, we kind
yeah.
of do. You can search at the top, Canada, and it will come up actually.
Type in a keyword. And
Yeah, we
it's-
can. At the way
Mhm.
top of OWL, it's just a blank search bar, and that just screens your entire
I
profile.
could type in
Mhm.
triathlons and then just find.
Yeah.
Actually, Joy McAdams, definitely type it in, or even better, just put a post. I'm really interested in speaking with someone who's done a triathlon, and then ready. I know Joy McAdams
There we
is
go.
big
So,
LinkedIn
yeah.
influencer, and she loves OWL. She doesn't get on there enough, and if I tag her, she probably will, and
Yeah.
boom, you're on
Yeah.
a
I
call.
love that.
Yeah,
love that.
let's make it happen.
You do
cool.
triathlons?
I do. I'm an
Wow,
Ironman
that's
finisher.
impressive.
I do. It's my one of my other
Cool.
passion areas, and I
Wow,
love
good
it.
for
and
you.
It's a big.
What about
community.
pickleball?
I haven't
Yeah.
got
We're pickleball people, so
I'm not coordinated. That's why I do sports. They're like run in a straight line,
Mhm.
ride a bike in a straight line. There's
Okay.
a lot of like not.
I played this
Fun.
morning actually. That's why I
You're not
didn't
playing
get in late to later.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's okay.
fun.
Physical
So,
fitness is
Sweeping-
Yeah, I needed my fitness before my coffee. So
brain energy.
yeah, exactly.
That's what they say about the 30-30-30. Have you heard about that?
No.
30
No.
minutes of low heart rate exercise. So you're essentially a slow jog or a fast
Yeah.
walk. 30 minutes within waking up for 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it apparently has all these incredible health benefits, and it stimulates your metabolism. And there's even some anti-inflammatory and other.
Oh, I know they say like do it. We had an expert on here who does what's the low carb diet? I can't
Keto camp?
remember. Yeah, keto and
Oh,
like
Benazati.
yeah, I always go on his lives and ask him questions because he's super
Oh, Ben's
knowledgeable.
awesome.
And he was saying like also just doing it on an empty stomach, like when you wake up, is also great for inflammation, lowering inflammation and all that stuff. So yeah,
Certainly.
fun facts.
And new study in, if you call someone right after the 30 minutes, is also great for your health and business.
There you go.
I,
Yeah,
And you're all
your
in.
endorphins,
He's
you're
writing
amped up,
the
ready?
thesis on
lowers your
this.
nerves.
Possibly
So,
while you're doing the exercise.
You
Call them
can.
when you're on your
Yeah.
bike.
You
Right? Call them
we just
whenever.
gave you guys a morning
Technically can.
routine. Wow,
There we
for the
go.
new year, new year, new you. Okay.
I like this idea. What are the
So,
challenges in the new year? I see there. This is heading.
woo. All right, guys. I think that's it for today.
Yes. Well, thank
All right.
you all for listening in. This is our last episode of the year. Catch up with us in 2024 again on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and my LinkedIn, Jason R. Hill. Take care, everybody.